The day Gallium and Utonium first met was just before the beginning of the school year for Midway Elementary. The parents had gathered to meet the teachers there. Utonium saw plenty of familiar faces among the crowd. But Gallium had stood out due to being both new and strangely familiar. The other parents who had kids that went to Pokey Oaks just like the professor gathered around Gallium asking her questions. Things like what she did for work, where she worked, who her kids were and so many others. With a polite smile on her face, Gallium answered all of them.
I'm a child psychologist. I live and work in Citiesville.
She replied calmly with a pleasant smile.
Citiesville? How on earth are you in the Midway District then?
One parent questioned. Gallium laughed politely.
I'm only just barely in the district, to be honest.
She confessed.
But I'm glad I am. I want my boys to go to the best possible school they can.
Oh, you have boys? How many?
Another parent questioned.
I have 3 wonderful little boys.
Gallium replied. Utonium, who was just across the room, could hear the affection in her voice. He couldn't help but smile. She sounded like him when he talked about his girls.
3 boys.
A different parent exclaimed, stunned.
That must be a handful.
They're a little rambunctious, but nothing outside what's normal for children like them.
Gallium replied with a calm tone.
Children like them?
Miss Keene had joined in on the conversation.
Yes, my boys are a little special. Beyond what most parents think of their children.
Gallium replied with a bit of pride in her voice.
Oh really? How so?
Miss Keene questioned curiously.
Well, they can fly.
Gallium's tone was humorous in nature. Miss Keene paused and then laughed.
Really? You will want to talk to Drake then.
She pointed him out in the crowd. Utonium felt a bit of embarrassment, especially when their eyes met and she had caught him staring.
Yeah, the professor has 3 little girls that are a little special too.
One of the many parents who had gathered around Gallium spoke in a teasing tone.
That's so.
Gallium's eyes were full of curiosity. To be honest, Utonium was much the same, especially after hearing that her boys had powers. He had never met another parent of super-powered kids before.
Yeah, my girls fly from time to time.
Utonium replied with a sheepish tone. He could feel heat radiate off his ears as everyone smiled at him teasingly. While he was interested in talking with Gallium, he wished everyone would just make their intentions a little less obvious. It was clear that the other parents and Miss Keene had quickly put together a scheme to pair them up. In fact, one of the first questions to come out of the other parent's mouth was whether or not Gallium had a spouse or significant other. The friendly smiles grew when Gallium politely replied with,
No, I'm single.
But despite the obvious scheme, Gallium seemed unbothered by the attempts to play Cupid. Instead, as the parent-teacher conference ended, Gallium was the one to approach Utonium just outside the school.
Dr. Utonium.
She called. Utonium was just about to get into his car. He turned to face Gallium as she approached.
Oh, you don't have to call me doctor. Most people just call me professor.
He told Gallium. A confused look appeared on the woman's face.
Do you prefer that?
She asked carefully.
I don't mind it.
Utonium replied with a smile.
All right, Professor. Would you like to go get coffee with me?